Shuvo Das is saying, would you consider the Capitol building attack an anti-woke movement? If so, then not only has anti-wokeness gone too far, it's a threat to peaceful democracy.
No, not really anti-woke. That was crazier than anti-woke.
I would say no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, as bad. Okay, so anti-woke has gone too far, but that movement is something even a lot more toxic than just the anti-woke movement. That is like full-on
a break from reality.
Yeah.
These are the people who are a good example of what Armin was talking about. Is like the people who have kind of hijacked the legitimate anti-woke, critics.
I think it's separate. I mean, it's QAnon. It's and when I say it's a break from reality, I don't mean postmodernists to object the idea of an objective reality. I mean that they have devolved into conspiracy that there's like a 5D, the JFK Jr. is going to come from the future and save us, like that level.
Radical leftist.
Okay, so let me put this in perspective. These people are not the anti-woke people, but these people are the reasons why the anti-woke people don't understand that the right has a bigger problem, right? So that they are not. It's the anti-woke need to realize that as bad as the woke people are on the left, the right has a bigger problem, which is these people. So that's how they are different. Okay, so I think Jeremy agrees with me. Jeremy, you want to read this?
Yeah, so Jeremy's saying, I don't think the comparison of Bernie versus Biden to woke versus anti-woke is fair. There's a lot of Biden woke people and anti-woke Bernie people, and Bernie campaign mostly on economic stuff. I'm glad you said this. I'm glad you said this because I was going to respond to Armin on that. That I do think, that's right. Bernie did campaign mostly on economic stuff. That has been his focus. But when they're in an association of voters in general, like people who do lean towards the whole woke side, Bernie did cater to them, and he did try to get that demographic. And they largely went for Bernie. So there's an association there. And I'm not saying that Bernie himself is. Bernie's actually very anti-identity politics.
Well, he did say one thing, but let's be fair to him. That was the only thing that he said that seemed like very wokey. And I think he never apologized for it, but I think he regretted it. And there's no excuse for it because people say you're taking it out of context. No, I'm not taking it out of context. Bernie said white people don't know how it feels to be poor. And there's no excuse for saying something like that. And he did say that, but that's the only mostly he didn't do anything like that. That was the only thing.
He got backlash from the woke movement for putting up a Joe Rogan endorsement.
Backlash. I'm saying that I don't think Bernie represents wokeism. But that's the one thing that he said that was absolutely insane. Yeah. And but everyone makes mistakes.
But he did cater to that demographic.
Yeah.
Okay. The Rational Guard is saying, I think wokeism's power is its infiltration of our way of thinking as individuals, as well as society and institutions. That is a valid use of the term mainstream. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's okay. I think that applies to a lot of things. I think this is one idea. The wokeism thing is something that's in there. You know, the radical conservatism, neoconservative, that's the one thing that's in there. But this is what happens at a lot of places. Right, and you push back against it. I need to say one thing in response to this because we always talk about this is James Lindsay types. Like they keep on going on and on about how this is a threat and it's going to be terrible and there's nothing we can do about it. If you want to do something about it, if you don't like these things, join the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion committees in your thing. Especially if you're a person of color who doesn't like this stuff, like myself. I am in this committee and in my company, right?
Exposed. Yeah. Guys, you need to, when you're reading these comments, because some people are listening to this on a podcast, you need to say that the Rational Guard is saying, because then the podcast people are going to get confused. Why is Ali saying this, right? So make sure you say the Rational Guard.
Yeah, this is what the Rational Guard said. You know, the comment that I read. So the thing is, you go and join these committees and then make your voice known. If you're a woman, if you're into, almost everybody has something they can claim to be underprivileged about, right?
All right, guys, we have so many questions.
Yeah, I know, but this is important because we're actually talking about what to do about it because nobody talks about what to do about it. There's something that you can do. You can provide a counter narrative. You can get on these committees. You can talk about how as I'm a person of color. I come from the Muslim community. Everybody thinks I'm going to be like not drinking alcohol, but I do because I don't believe in this stuff. There is diversity within communities, just as there is diversity between communities. Mm-hmm. You can make simple statements like that as a person of color, and they have to listen to you because you're a person of color. Right?
Okay.
They have to. So do it. Get into these communities. Like, do something about it.
Okay,
instead of just sitting there.
I'm not going to answer because Ellie took all the time to answer that. Jim King saying, do you think part of it more? Wait,
part of it is more about populism, more than
is missing.
Right than so is this problem more about populism more than right versus left? The anti-woke feel like they are pushing back on the elite academic types. Example, someone like James Lindsay. I do think there is a flavor of that. There's a big flavor of that. Of it, and that criticism is not just from people like Tim Pool, who are like right-wing populists. Like John McWhorter is releasing chapters of his new book called The Elect, and it's themed around like, you know, these people who act like they are these elect few with this, like, you know, precious knowledge, or or as if they're like self-appointed experts, or who has been elected into this group of, you know, perfect knowledge. It's very, I still need to get into that. It's really interesting, that book.
I do think it's a little bit right. I do think by the very nature of progressivism versus conservatism, because it means to conserve, it will be naturally more on the side of censorship, cancel culture, stifling dissent, authority, right? Because it's trying to conserve, and anything on the left is trying to change. So it is going to be, on average, more on the side of dissent, more on the side of rebellion, more on the side of change. So as much as you could see like wokeism acting like censorial and all of that, by the very nature of these movements, I think you're going to see more of it coming from the right. So this is a short answer from me. Joshua saying, are you familiar with the critiques of identity politics and wokeness from Marxists like
Slavoj Zizek? Yeah,
I don't know.
No, I'm not either.
I'm very familiar with other Marxist critiques of this. Like I talked to Marxist Soccer a lot. Well, now he's on Twitter, Perro en Español, if you want to go look up his handle. It's very interesting. Like, I actually love like anti-identity politics Marxists. They're so much fun to talk to because they're very different economically, but we don't understand. Oh my gosh.
Ghost Bunny was wrong. My answer. So Ghost Bunny saying, I bet you anything the next question Armin is going to go on a 5-minute rant. Nope. My answer was no. Short answer. Where were we? I lost my spot.
Yeah.
From Robert. Hi, Robert. Saying, pointing out woke ideas permeating mainstream culture is like a fish pointing to the water in which it's swimming. Other fish either don't see it or say, so what? Mainstream culture always moves. I think that's a very good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh.
Guys, sorry if we're not highlighting that many comments.
Can I say something about the Robert Hamilton comment? Like, I really like that. I think a lot of this stuff, like, for example, what Douglas Murray says about culture wars is it just feels like, you know, the old people saying, oh, kids these days, which is just an age-old generational conflict. You know, I'm not saying all of it's like that, but a lot of it is. It's just kids thinking, doing different things, experimenting, rebelling against the elders. It's just that the old people now just have Twitter accounts, right? So all your old sort of disgruntled uncles essentially just have Twitter accounts. And a lot of this is just a generational gap that happens in every generation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Joshua is saying, what do you think about attempts by congressional Democrats to pressure cable companies to stop airing channels that promote right-wing disinformation?
It's interesting.
Well, here's the thing. I think like after the riots, it would be insane to think that Democrats are not going to try to take advantage of that political capital as much as they can. Of course they will. I'm not excusing it, but they will. And you can see that every side uses this. Like, I don't know, like if there's an attack, the fear, the hate is going to against the people who did that is going to be something that the other side is going to be. People know that the short-term memory, we have to get as much. Like, people are really angry right now. We have to like get the return on investment as much as we can. Everything, like, same thing happens on the other side as well, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the
right,
9/11.
Yeah, sorry about that. There's some historical context on this. This has happened forever. I mean, I remember when I grew up on hip hop and heavy metal rock music, and the PMRC was there, and Congress was trying to get them to put like parent, advisory stickers on all the albums, which they succeeded with. And so, I mean, this kind of thing has happened pretty much all the time. But right now, I think they're talking about OAN and they're talking about Newsmax. And all of their stuff about how the election was stolen, and they don't want that disinformation out there because it's harmful. But you know what's been more effective than congressional Democrats pressuring them? Dominion, like the voting machines people. They sued them. And they had to
hit you with the book.
And they had to throw. You know the Mr. Pillow guy, Mike Lindell.
Yeah,
Newsmax had to throw him off the channel. That. Right? You probably saw that clip, and I'm pretty sure he's fucking the pillows. Like, anyway, so they had to throw him off, right? Because they are afraid of the lawsuit. And there you go. That's way more powerful than congressional Democrats trying to pressure anybody to do anything. The Rational Guard. Oh, this is for me. In other words, use your POC privilege, Ali, the person of color. The biggest privilege in the 21st century is a sense of perpetual victimhood. If you feel like you're victimized, there's an oppression Olympics. The more oppressed you are, the more privileged you are on social media. And self-pity is the most malignant form of narcissism.
Ali was joking when he said that.
No, I was actually serious. It's like they will use it to your advantage. Use it.
But you just criticize victimhood as malignant and whatever, and now you're saying use it.
Yeah, you use it because, I mean, the thing is, in these committees, if someone is sitting there trying to paint all of people of color, you can say as a person of color, as a brown guy, I have an advantage if I want to apply to an IT job, and I don't have a history of 400 years of slavery, and colonialism really wasn't bad as what this black person sitting next to me went through. I mean, those are things that you can say, that putting all people of color in one, people of color is actually
you're gonna get kicked out of the equity office.
No, you're not, because you're a person of color. They can't.
No, I'm kidding.
No, they can't do that to him. He's an immigrant.
I'm an immigrant. I'm a person of color. I'm Muslim. I am oppressed.
I expose Hindutva were right. The Hindutva were correct. You're Muslim. Once a Muslim, always a Muslim. It's
like I might as well be a fat, hairy, flat-chested woman. I mean, that's how it is. Like that's what my status. Actually, I think I am.
Okay, guys, we just 2 more questions. I'm just gonna focus not on the comments anymore. Just the questions only, not the comments. Sorry, guys.
Shuvo is saying, are the woke and anti-woke groups a new phenomena, or do you think there has always been versions of woke versus anti-woke groups in the American global political zeitgeist? I think we've already talked about this, and I think there's always been some form of this happening.
Some form of this, but the woke is a bit of a new monster. It's weird. It's like,
I think
the rise has been, whenever you have an extreme sort of authority, like when you had the Trump government, then the woke thing became more. Extremes legitimize extremes.
Well, okay, so it depends on what you mean new. So every time there's a popular movement, some people are going to jump on that and they're going to misuse it and take advantage of it. So that has been happening forever.
But I mean, it's specific though. Like woke versus anti-woke. I think of it gives me a puritanical flavor, right? So especially in American history, there's been a lot of cultural movements that have a puritanical flavor. Like the Red Scare, or witch trials, literally,
Mm-hmm.
Right. Actually, this leads to the final question very well. Shuvo is saying, is Hindutva anti-woke? Hindutva is the best example of seeing what happens when the right wing is in more control.
Yeah.
You want to see cancel culture under a right wing government? Just look at Hindutva.
But are they woke?
They are anti-woke, and they're anti-Muslim as well. I mean, you can see how people try to. Hindutva has been using anti-woke narratives, anti-Islam narratives. Like they used to jump on these what we have noticed from a lot of right-leaning people in the West to jump on our bandwagons when we criticize Islam or when we criticize the woke and be like, why are you get off our bandwagon. Like, you guys don't belong here, right? We noticed that 100 times, 1,000 times more and from Hindutva. Like, this is basically the same thing. So technically, yes. But go ahead.
I don't think that they are anti-woke. I think they're just right-wingers. Like, they do. I will say that they do.
That's what I mean, though.
They do push back against like the Indian left treating Islam with like kid gloves, basically, or being apologists for it, right? Like, there is that flavor, but they're just like.
But Susanna, that's the whole point of I was trying to bring from the very beginning, right? That you guys are not anti-woke is just now far right propaganda, not
that's
right
not
wing.
True though.
Right? What do you mean?
Like, I remember we were talking about the heterogeneity within people who are anti-woke.
I know, but
liberals.
so not sorry, shouldn't generalize like that. The problem with anti-woke. So I shouldn't say just, okay? The problem with the anti-woke is it's being hijacked by a lot of right-leaning, but mostly far right-leaning people, right? So just like the left, the very good movements from the left was hijacked by some people who are woke, right? The main problem right now with anti-SJW, that is not only it's being hijacked by right-leaning people, it's also being hijacked by a lot of far-right people, okay? So I don't mean to generalize. I'm glad that you're catching me every time I generalize and say like just or like you're here, but like, that's not true. Yes, you're right, okay? But it is a major part of the anti-woke movement right now, and it's a huge problem, okay? So if you wonder if the left have to recognize that they have a problem because they have some Wokistani people that they need to call out, even if they're fringe, you have to. I think the anti-woke movement has a bigger problem because it doesn't. Maybe it's not all, but it's a huge portion of the anti-woke movement is now just pushing racism, pushing not anti-Islam narratives, but anti-Muslim bigotry.
Yeah.
Pushing using. You know, when you're pushing, for example, for trans rights, okay, of course there's going to be sometimes ridiculous things happening. Like, how could it not? Okay, but these transphobes just jump on those and they make it seem like that's the entire trans right movement, right? Like, there's no movement that when you push for women's rights, when you push for gay rights, when you push for trans rights, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be all 100% correct, everything they're pushing for. Yeah. There's going to be fringe things that is going to happening that is going to be ridiculous. How could it not? Okay? Do you think like should we have abandoned the women's rights movement because some women were just hated men as a whole? Like, of course we're gonna have some women that are like that. How could we not?
Oh, a whole with a W. Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
I'm gonna cancel Ellie. I canceled Ellie.
I'm oppressed. He's canceling me.
I'm canceling.
Do you see this?
Maybe, you know what? Cancel culture. Maybe it's good.
Okay, listen, guys.
Of course, it's the Aryan causing this violence.
The only thing I have to do. I'm immigrant Muslim. The only thing I have to do is go trans. That's it. But the only time I will do that is if I'm ever sentenced to a life term in prison, because that way I don't have to go to the bail. But never mind. Okay, guys.
In seriousness, people are fighting trans protections in California because of that exact idea. It's a mess. California's a mess.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.